Well, to help us unpack the case a bit, we're joined by Daniel Seidemann. He's an Israeli attorney specializing in Israeli-Palestinian relations in the city of Jerusalem. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us. Can you walk us through a bit the background of this case? In a way, it's a real estate dispute stretching back something like 70 years.
Well, I would contest that description as a real estate matter. The question at hand is whether the state of Israel has the authority, the power, the morality to target an entire neighborhood in order to take possession of homes that have always been lived in by Palestinians and to turn them over to ideological settlers. That is what is at stake here. Since 1967, Israel has moved 225,000 of its residents to the settlement neighborhoods of East Jerusalem. We did not engage in the large-scale displacement of Palestinians. This is the first time we're doing it. We're doing it here and we're doing it in Silwan. And Israel is going places that we never dared go in the past.
Well, how has this case in particular become such a flashpoint in this conflict over the Israeli settler movement? How has it been used as part of the conflict?
Well, most of the disputes on the agenda between Israelis and Palestinians are territorial and can be solved by taking out a geographical scalpel. However, there are two radioactive issues that cut to the core of identities of Palestinians and Jerusalem. The Jewish people would not be the Jewish people without Jerusalem, and the same can be said of the Palestinians. And both the Jewish people and the Palestinian have been traumatized by displacement. We are both refugee peoples. There is not one Jewish family that hasn't been touched by the Holocaust or displacement, and every Palestinian family has been affected by the Nakba. What we are doing in Sheikh Jarrah is an act of nuclear fusion. We are combining the two most volatile and incendiary components of the conflict at the same time, and the result is extremely dangerous.
What are we expecting from the court's decision today? Do we have any idea of which way this decision is going to go?
Well, the court is deliberating as we speak, and I'm receiving reports from within the courtroom. They're pressing for a compromise, and I very much doubt that compromise is possible in this case. We will either see the case dismissed, saying the Supreme Court is not going to intervene with the ruling of the lower court, or possibly it will go to a full court of the Supreme Court to judge on the appeal, or maybe back to the lower court. To be honest, this is a matter that should not be decided by the court. There are matters of the national interests of Israel, security, our international standing, and that of Palestinians. And this is really a political issue. If the court rules in favor of the settlers, they're going to be ostracized in the enlightened judicial community of jurisprudence. And if they rule against the settlers, they're going to be ostracized and targeted by the Israeli right. These are matters that are too volatile, too radioactive to come before a court of law.
Well, speaking of the political situation there, obviously the country's government has been undergoing some changes, significant changes in recent months. Have we seen any sort of difference since Naftali Bennett has taken over as prime minister? Obviously, he also is a big supporter of Israeli settlers. His coalition government, though, perhaps not so much. Have we seen any change since Netanyahu has left power?
Yes and no. Let's start with the no. Settlement activity, occupation are today part of Israel's DNA. They inform the decision-making process of all of the organs of government. So in order for occupation to proceed, you don't need marching orders from the Israeli government or Naftali Bennett. Now, I don't know who Naftali Bennett is for the simple reason that I don't believe he knows who Naftali Bennett is, and we're going to find out. But there is a difference. This government is more attentive to the concerns about the displacement of the Palestinians in Sheikh Jarrah. Yitzhak. That doesn't mean they're going to do the right thing, but they are listening, they're attentive. There are opportunities emerging that didn't exist under a Netanyahu government. Whether that will be good enough remains to be seen.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that analysis indeed. Daniel Seidemann joining us from Israel. Thank you so much again.